Chapter 761, Thousand Hand Dragons and Elephants. This chapter is updated by Novels.pl. Hearing Munklidi's roar, the corners of many people's lips twitched. They all looked towards the source of the voice. Such a confident tone. Where's this monk from? Jialuogu is wearing the thousand cassock robe. His combat ability is comparable to a half-saint. Who dares to say he's going to bleed? Judging from his looks, he's not some good guy either. Have you ever seen a monk with a broadsword? The young monks in the Talent and Conquer seats all discussed Munklidi. They thought he looked too menacing to be a good guy. He looked more like an evil monk from the Death Zen sect. On the other hand, Jialuogu looked kind and gentle. He radiated with Buddha light. This was what a monk should look like. If Jialuogu's methods from before hadn't been so cruel and hateful, the people would probably have an even worse impression of Munklidi. Munklidi rolled up his pant legs, revealing calves covered in black hair. His shirt was open wide, revealing his chest and stomach as he walked to the peak of Scroll Mountain. Munklidi's voice was loud and he looked powerful, but he walked really slowly. After 15 minutes had passed, he still hadn't reached the middle of the mountain. Even a beginner who just started cultivating martial arts could reach the top in that time. Chen Tanping, one of the three heirs of the Eastern Region Saint Mansion, was sitting in a conquer seat. He said telepathically to Chen Lena, "Is this monk scared? How come he's taking so long?" Munklidi's two large ears twitched as if he'd heard something. Stopping, his bell-sized eyes glared at Chen Tanping. "Scared?" He boomed like thunder. "I am dedicated to the Buddha. I have no fear, no terror, and no obsessions. How will I fear a traitor of the Buddha way?" Chen Tanping was shocked. He didn't think that Munklidi's hearing would be sensitive enough to hear his telepathic message. Then Munklidi rolled up his sleeves and stalked over to him menacingly. Chen Tanping thought that Munklidi was furious and that he wanted to beat him up. He stood up in panic and put his hands together to apologize. "I'm sorry, I spoke incorrectly. Please forgive me." Actually, Munklidi only wanted to go debate with Chen Tanping. He wasn't angry at all. It was just that he looked too scary and his voice was too rough. This made Chen Tanping think that he was angry already. Seeing that Chen Tanping's apology seemed genuine, Munklidi nodded. He huffed and turned to leave. He continued climbing up at a snail's pace. Chen Tanping returned to his seat. Staring at Munklidi's backside, he let out a long sigh. Behind him, Chen Lena didn't understand. "This monk looks scary, but you don't have to apologize voluntarily." But Chen Tanping was still feeling afraid. He wiped away his sweat, saying, "Didn't you see that sinister expression? If I didn't apologize immediately, I probably would have gotten killed with one punch. This monk can't be anyone good." Actually, Chen Tanping didn't know how to explain what he'd felt. It was just that, when Munklidi's eyes stared at him, it felt like there was a god standing before him. He felt reverent and had to submit to him. After that small interruption, no one dared to look down on Munklidi. Even Lin Yue had said he could fight against Jialuogu. How could he be an average man? Munklidi could hear the telepathic messages of a monk in the 9th change of the fish-dragon realm. This meant that his cultivation was definitely powerful. Thus, everyone started waiting patiently. They wanted to see if this monk really could defeat Jialuogu. Huang Yanshan walked to Zhang Yuochen's side and reached out a slender hand to hold his arm. "The traitor of the Buddha way should be taken care of by a Buddhist monk. Shall we go back first?" Zhang Yuochen glanced over. Staring into her blue eyes, he caught a clear fragrant scent. His face didn't betray any emotions, but he sighed softly inward. Huang Yanshan was like an ice mountain, rejecting any man before they even got close. But now, she'd come to hold on to him voluntarily. His identity must have been exposed. How had Huang Yanshan figured it out? Zhang Yuochen had been very careful. He couldn't think of any mistake he'd made. "Yes." Zhang Yuochen nodded and returned to the first king's seat with Huang Yanshan. After 1 hour, Munklidi finally approached the mountain top. He stopped and exhaled loudly. He looked up, meeting Jialuogu's eyes. Jialuogu stood at the top of Scroll Mountain. He put his hands together in prayer and every inch of his skin glowed with golden Buddha light. His voice was graceful as he said, "Are you a monk of the 10,000 Buddha way?" "I cultivate the Nirvana way. My clerical name is Ledi," Munklidi said. The Nirvana way was a branch of the 10,000 Buddha way. Lidai meant to stand firmly on the ground. 800 years ago, when the Buddha had appeared out of nowhere, he became the leader of the Buddha way. The Nirvana way developed quickly and became the strongest branch of the 10,000 Buddha way in the end. Gyalyoga nodded. Since you're not from the 10,000 Buddha way, why don't you mind your own business? The Death Zen sect completely betrays the Buddha way. It is a cult. Any disciple of the Buddha way will try to destroy it. Monk Lidai's voice was strong and powerful. Each word seemed to shake one's eardrums. Gyalyoga smiled thinly. Aren't you betraying the Buddha way's beliefs by saying the word destroy? I do not like to kill, Monk Lidai said evenly. However, I can still have periods where I kill, or even kill many. Gyalyoga had wanted to use his words to destroy Monk Lidai's internal composure. He didn't think that this monk was completely different from the Buddhist sect's monks. He kept saying the word kill, clearly not caring about the rules. Continuing to fight verbally would be useless. In that case, they would have to fight physically. Gyalyoga refused to believe that he would lose with his cultivation and the 1,000 treasure cassock. I'd like to see what kind of people the Nirvana way has produced this generation. Gyalyoga's eyes darkened. He put his hands together before his chest. His Buddha light flared 10 times brighter, becoming extremely dazzling. Mainstay Buddhist mark. Gyalyoga's feet left the ground automatically and he shot into the air. Spreading his hands apart, he created 2 Buddhist marks. Golden Sanskrit words flew out of his palms, gathering in the center. They formed a huge golden hand that pressed down at Monk Lidai. Gyalyoga didn't underestimate Monk Lidai at all. When he attacked using the mainstay Buddhist mark, he also activated the 1,000 treasure cassock. It would be best if he could use this one strike to defeat the other 1,000 dragons and elephants. Monk Lidai wasn't intimidated. Powerful yang qi rushed out of him, transforming into flames that gathered into a golden cloud of fire. Handprints formed in the fire cloud and lined up behind Monk Lidai. There were actually 1,000 handprints. Each one had the mark of a dragon and elephant in the palm. All lined up, it was as if there were 1,000 dragons and 1,000 elephants. Zhang Yuochen's eyes lit up. The 8th movement of the dragon and elephant palm, he said. The 8th movement of the dragon and elephant palm was a set of palm martial arts techniques. Once one cultivated it, one would reach the middle class of the ghost level. The power released could compare with the martial arts techniques of the ghost level superior class. 2. It was called the 1,000-hand dragons and elephants because once one cultivated it fully, a single palm could unleash the power of 1,000 aggressive elephants. One palm could wipe out an entire army. Even if the monk stood miles away, he could still collapse a city's walls with one strike. It would be as if 1,000 angry elephants crashed against the walls. Once a monk could successfully cultivate the 8th movement, the yang qi within him would be 100 times more than the average man. He could easily lose control and light himself on fire. Even Zhang Yuochen was only on the 7th movement of the dragon and elephant palm. Of course, that was because Zhang Yuochen was preparing for the Sword Technique Conference and was putting all his efforts into cultivating his Tao of Sword. He had no time to practice his palm. Kaboom! 2 palms filled with yang qi clashed against each other. It sounded as if 2 steel mountains had collided. Beams of Buddhist light shot out in all directions. The next moment, Gyalyoga flew backwards. When he landed at the peak of Scroll Mountain, he stumbled backwards further. He couldn't digest the power and steady himself until dozens of steps later. On the other hand, Monk Lidai was like a boulder. He stood firmly on the ground without moving the slightest bit. Gyalyoga's eyes almost fell out of their sockets. He couldn't accept this reality. How can it be possible? I have the 1,000 treasure cassocks help. Even a second-level half-saint would be affected by my mainstay Buddha mark. The half-saint realm was divided into 9 levels. Each level was far apart from the others. It was practically impossible to challenge someone of a higher level. Only someone with a saint body could surpass one level in the half-saint realm and fight. This meant that even a saint body in the first level could only fight against a second-level half-saint. He would still be defeated by a third-level half-saint without any question. Gyalyoga was very clear about his own abilities. With the 1,000 treasure cassock, even if he couldn't defeat a second-level half-saint with the mainstay Buddha mark, he could still force the other back a few steps. However, Munklidi's feet seemed rooted in the ground. He hadn't even budged. Thinking of this, huge beads of sweat appeared on Gialuoga's forehead. He felt great pressure,